Man, I always mess up before the stream, and I always forget doing something, and right now I almost forgot to make myself a coffee. So, coffee is here, I am ready. People outside are working and they're making a lot of noise, so sorry for that. It's always the perfect time, like the whole day is like silent, and when I start streaming, everyone is start working and stuff. Hello guys, my name is Vadim and welcome to this new stream. And today we're gonna continue developing the Twitter clone and specifically connecting the Twitter clone to a backend. And we are gonna use AWS Amplify for that. So yeah, let's have a look at what we have managed to build in the previous week. So here is our project. We run the command yarn start, and from here we run on iOS simulator. And here is our Twitter that we have managed to build previous week. There is first of all like a bottom tab navigator with the possibility to switch between screens. There is a header for the home screen with a Twitter logo, everything. Then the main part is of course the feed with all the tweets, and we can see it here scrollable with multiple tweets from apparently from the same user, but it's possible to tweet from different users. So we'll see it how we'll do it today. And the next step we managed to build previous week was the write a tweet message. And the first thing is the floating button that we can see in the feed that is always here. That's something interesting that a lot of apps has. I think it's called action button. So if you're interested in that, like we show how we display it in the previous stream. So yeah, here we can write the tweet, an image URL, we can press tweet, and somewhere we console log. If we press here, we console log the image and the posting the tweet. Okay, right now everything looks good. I think it's pretty similar with Twitter. Of course, it doesn't have all the features. Of course, it's only the base, but that's the purpose of these tutorials, of these clones, to be able to imitate having a design, to be able to create a working application. And here we are almost touching every part of a process of developing an application, like displaying a list of items, displaying navigation and switching between screens, displaying the header, navigating between multiple screens, managing state, and today connecting to a backend. So finishing this application into a fully working application is just taking the same concepts and applying again for new features. So if you understand the concepts and the base, it's going to be easy for you to continue developing a working application for your own, not necessarily a clone. So yeah, I encourage everyone from you to follow these clones yourself and try to build it yourself, because this way you will learn easier. Because one thing is watching someone coding, but another thing is coding it yourself and messing up things and then trying to figure out what's the problem. I think that's the best way to learn something. So follow along, and if you manage to build it, post it on Instagram and send tag me, and I'll be happy to give you feedback. So let's have a look at our plan for today. Have it here. And that's another reason, another opportunity to create a project for your portfolio. And So yeah, as I said, the front end is in React Native with Expo using TypeScript. The backend we will use AWS Amplify, which is a set of tools from Amazon Web Services, and it combines a lot of AWS services as like AWS AppSync for the API and the backend for the for the database. GraphQL, which uses GraphQL, but you can also create a REST API if you want, but we will use GraphQL. Then Cognito for managing users and authentication, S3 for storing files, and a lot more like analytics also, and a lot more useful stuff for building a mobile application, and not only. So yeah, this was the plan for the previous week. We managed to build everything that we planned, and today we're gonna set up AWS Amplify, the backend of this Twitter, and connect it to our front end. I'm so pumped about this because it will be so good. So the plan for today. Firstly, we will start configuring the AWS Amplify project. Then we will add authentication. After that, we will also add the GraphQL API. After which we will sync the authenticated user to the database. Then we will display the authenticated user in the header of the Twitter application to be able to see who is now authenticated. We will continue with posting a tweet, and finally connecting the feed with the list of tweets that are coming from the backend. And at that point we will have a fully working Twitter, and everyone from you will be able to connect to this Twitter and post a tweet. So yeah, that's coming up. So let's start. What we're gonna need for AWS Amplify. To go to Google and write AWS Amplify. As simple as that. Yeah, I'm gonna try to walk you through the resources, like where you can find more information, because in these streams, yeah, I might develop this feature, but you might need something else. So here is all the information where you can get them. So develop your application. Then we select React Native. And here is all the documentation to get started with AWS Amplify. So first of all, you'll go and install the Amplify CLI. I already did that, so I'm not gonna do it again. But it's a simple command that will install the CLI, and after that you'll be able to write Amplify in your command line. So the next thing is, yeah, you will need an AWS account. So the AWS account is free. However, you have to sign up with a credit card. And the AWS will charge only for services that you are using. But don't worry, because most of the services that we are using in these builds are included into the free tier. So AWS provides you a free tier to experiment and try. So the free tier is more than enough for these use cases. And at the end of the project, you go and delete all the resources, so you won't be charged anything. Yeah, create an account. This is how you install Amplify CLI globally with using npm. And after that you will call amplify configure to configure the local amplify. Yep. It will ask you a couple of questions like region. For that I recommend you getting a region that is close to you. You can find them using Google, like AWS regions, or use like the default that they are suggesting. Then username for Amplify YAM user. This is like a set of credential to make sure that your connection with AWS is secure. And after that, it will redirect you to the AWS website, and you will select administrator access to give this user access to everything. And after that, like click next, complete. And when the YAM user is created, you will copy the access key ID and access secret access key from the console, paste it back into your terminal, and that's it. And you successfully set up the Amplify. So next one is to set up our project to work with Amplify. So for that we're gonna need to call Amplify init. So let's go to our project. Here it is. Let's open a new terminal and do Amplify init. Amplify init will initialize a new Amplify project, and it will ask us a couple of questions. A couple of questions. So for the name, we can leave a default or give a custom name. The environment for me will be development. I will choose editor IntelliJ IDEA. However, it's WebStorm, so not pretty sure why they don't have WebStorm there. Choose the type of app that you're building. They provide SDKs for Android, iOS, and JavaScript. For us, it's definitely JavaScript, and our framework is React Native. For the source directory, we'll leave it as it is. Just press enter. Distribution as well, enter. Build command, enter. Start command, the same. And right now, based on this information, Amplify will go and create these resources. Here it will ask you to choose a profile. So we will select the name of a profile that we just created in the previous step, that when you configure Amplify. So it's either default, or if you gave a name, it will be listed here. Okay, and now we're gonna wait a bit. It's gonna set up everything on AWS, and then we can continue with our tasks. Let's go. Yeah, until it configures. Oh, okay, it configured. 1 second, give me 1 minute because someone is calling me and might be pretty important. All right, I am back. So our Amplify project has been created and configured. So this one is done. This one is done. Now let's move on and add authentication to our Twitter API, so that only authenticated users will be able to enter. And we can do that simply by running Amplify add authentication. And here it again will ask us a couple of questions. Do you want to use the default authentication and security configuration? Yeah, I'm gonna go with default configuration. However, you can also integrate default configuration with social providers. And that is, for example, login with Google, login with Facebook, and so on. I feel that there is so much noise coming from outside. I'm so mad. Okay, so default. How do you want your user to be able to sign in? With username, and then we click no, I'm done, because we don't need advanced settings right now. The next step is to call Amplify push, and what this will do, it will go and create these resources that we set up locally, because everything right now we set up here. We can see in backend authentication, yeah, it has Amplify meta with everything, with all the configuration, for example here. So if we call Amplify push, it will take this configuration that we set up right now and create the resources that it needs on AWS. So we're gonna call this, say yes to confirm, and wait until it creates the resources on AWS. However, that's not everything. We go back to our docs Amplify, and so we need to install a couple of dependencies. So we are using Expo. We'll select Expo here, copy all the dependencies that we need, and go back to our project and say yarn add, and paste in all the dependencies. This will, yeah, I'm using yarn. If you have npm, you can call npm install and paste in these dependencies. So yeah, while it is installing the dependencies, we can wait a bit. All right, it installed the dependencies. Let's have a look at pushing the resources. It's still creating progress. That means that AWS is spinning up the services right now. That means that we can go and finally copy these lines in order to configure the Amplify in our source code. So we copy these lines and we open up.js for Expo, which we find in the root folder. In our case, it's not up.js, it's up.tsx, because we are using Typescript. So we paste in these lines of code, and I usually prefer having libraries imported on top. Local files like dot something imported here, and after that we can call amplify configure. Okay, so that's it for setting up the project. However, to set up the authentication, we need one more step. So we go here to add authentication. We see the steps that we already followed: amplified out, add authentication, then amplify push. Amplify console will open the AWS console, and you will be able to see your project in AWS. So that's something also interesting. We can say amplify console, and this will open here the console, and we can visually see our application Twitter clone, all the activity of it, authentication that we currently added, and it uses a service Cognito and we can view our users there. Okay, so nothing interesting yet there. Let's come back and yeah, create the login UI. For that, we're gonna need to import the higher order component called with Authenticator in our up.tsx from the root. So we import this, and instead of exporting default the application, we need to wrap around the application in our with Authenticator higher order component. So we remove export default from our function and we export default lower our with Authenticator, and we pass in the application functional component here. This will make sure to set up all the authentication. It will manage the tokens. It will check if the user is not authenticated. It will redirect him to the authentication routes, else it will redirect us to our feed. So if we say this, that's everything we need for having authentication in our application. So here we see we are not authenticated and we are redirected to the sign in page. How many lines of code did you count? Like 3 or 4, something like that. And we have authentication in our app. That's what I love about AWS Amplify. So we don't have an account, so let's go to sign up. It has all the pages that you need for a good user experience in an authentication flow. For example, creating an account, logging in, emails for confirmation to confirm your email, forgot password, emails for forgetting password, and all these steps. And the good thing is that everything here is configurable. So if you need the different styles, you definitely can do that, and it's not that hard. But for the purpose of our clone, we are gonna stick to the default styles. So one more thing is, for example, let's give it a test password, and you will see in a moment that it doesn't allow us to have this password. For the phone, we can give something random, sign up, invalid password format. So the password is too weak and it doesn't allow us to use it. So that's also out of the box. I change the password, sign up, and now I should receive an email to my account. Let me check real quick. Yeah, I received it right away, and here I should put in the code 8742. Confirm. Now Vadim. Come on, don't say that I messed up something in the registration process. Yeah, I did. So let's try to see the forget password flow, because I messed up on my password. So I pressed on forget password. I should receive a confirmation code. Yeah, I already received a confirmation code on my email. Let's paste in here. Come on, Vadim, focus. Now. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Yes! I managed to do that. To remember a password. Yeah, that's it, guys. That's it with our authentication flow. What do you think about that? Let me know down below. Is there anything easier? Yeah, I know that Firebase has similar approach, but I am a big fan of AWS, so that's why. but we might try to do using Firebase in future as well, because I'm not like stuck on one technology. That might be a good opportunity for me to learn as well, because I didn't use Firebase in production services, only like at university and stuff like that. So Add Authentication done. The next step is to add the Graphql API. So all the documentation and examples to add the database you can find here. Connect API and database to the application, but we can start adding it here. So we start with Amplify add API, very simple to memorize, but you don't have to. Don't try to memorize everything, all the commands, and because nobody does, everyone is googling. So the first question is, please select from one of the below mentioned services. It suggests us two types of APIs, GraphQL and REST. We will go with GraphQL. If you're not familiar with it, yeah, it's a different type of API than REST. And the concept of it gives the possibility to the front-end part to query the data they need, because in a REST API, when you query, for example, users, the server will return you all the information about users, but you might need only the name and the avatar to display it, for example, here in the header. So that's a waste of bandwidth to get all the information. But using GraphQL, the front end is the one who decides what data it needs. That's one of the advantages, because there are a lot. I really love working with GraphQL. We have our startup Fitinium written with GraphQL and Apollo on the front end. So yeah, I got into too many details. So provide API name, Twitter clone is good. Okay, choose the default authorization, API key, awesome. Description, better Twitter, of course it's better Twitter. After how many days? 7 is okay. Do you want to configure advanced settings for GraphQL API? No, we are good with default ones. Do you have an annotated GraphQL schema? We don't have, and the schema is the definition of how our data looks. So we don't have yet, but we and when we don't have it, Amplify suggests us to give us some templates. It gives us 2 templates for schemas with a single object like to do, and one-to-many relationship between, for example, blogs, posts, and comments. I will start from one-to-many relationships, because here we also have a one-to-many relationship between users and tweets. So let's start with this template, then we will modify it to fulfill our needs, and we will be good to go. Do you want to edit the schema now? Yes, we want, but we will say no, because it can't open it in WebStorm. So if you're using another ID, you can say yes. However, we know where to find it, because it's in Amplify folder, it's in Backend, API, and then Schema. So here is our schema. This is the template that Amplify provided us. So we need to modify this template to our needs. So the first thing is, from a blog we will change to a user, which will be a model, of course a user model. Not all users will be models, but some of them will. So it will have ID, name, let's leave name. Let's add also username, which will be again string, and exclamation mark to say that this field will be required, can be null. ID, username, name, avatar or image, string, and this one can be null, like let's allow some users to have null avatars. Anything else for now? I don't know. Let's the next one will be posts, but let's just rename it tweets, because in our case it will be tweets, and it will be an array of tweet model, which will be this one. And the connection, the key name will be, let's rename it by user. The fields will be ID. That's okay. The next one, type tweet. It will have a key by user, and the value that will define this key will be user ID. So what will our tweet have? It will have an ID. It will have not a title but a content probably. It will have, instead of blog ID, we rename it to user ID. Instead of blog, we will rename to user, and the type will be user. And connection will be based on the user ID key. We will not have any comments right now. And what else? We will not need this comments type. Let me double check if I didn't forget anything. So the user has ID, username, name. Yeah, of course we forgot about user's email, which will be a string and will be required. Image tweets, okay, and the tweet will have an ID, content, image. Okay, we forgot the image of a tweet. Will be a string because it's a URL, and it's not gonna be required because some tweets can have null images. User ID and user. Yeah, I think now we are good. We are good to go. So, what's now? You're asking. Of course, it's Amplify push, because we set up everything locally. Now we have to push these changes to AWS. So let's try to do that. Let's hope that it will work, that we didn't mess up anything. So are you sure you want to continue? It will create the API, and for the authentication no changes. Yeah, that's what we want to do. I still have some coffee. Do you want to generate code for your newly created Graphql API? Yes, and it will generate some queries and mutations, and the code generation language will be Typescript. Enter the file name pattern of GraphQL queries, mutation, and subscriptions. So as you see in our Expo project, we don't have a source directory, so instead of leaving like this, we will try to copy paste only the GraphQL part. Will we be? I'm afraid to do that. Let's just write graph. Damn. Now I forgot how does this pattern look. Okay, let's do Ctrl C and Amplify push again. Yes, I want to generate code in Typescript. So it's gonna be GraphQL, then stars. Okay, I think I got it. GraphQL stars for any directory, then star for any name .ts. I hope. Let's go. We want to generate all possible GraphQL operation, which includes like query, mutation, and subscriptions. Yes. Maximum statement depth, we'll leave it for 2, and this is just the depth of the relationships that we can query. So for example, we can query a list of tweets, and for each tweet we can query the user, but in user we can query back the tweets. So you see that here it's a cycle. we can query from user tweets, from tweets user, and we can continue to query, to nest these queries, multiple levels. So here we said that the maximum level will be 2. For some situations you might need deeper nesting level, but for our use case is good. Enter the file name for the generated code. This will be the types. Let's go with api.ts. So we wait a bit until Amplify pushes all the services to AWS. So yeah, we're still waiting. Yeah, we're still on this point, adding the GraphQL API, waiting for it to push all the changes. So yeah, a couple of minutes more. I don't think it will be more than 30 seconds. It should be set up. Let's go. Generated GraphQL operation, code generated successfully, and all resources are updated in the cloud. So what did it generate? It generated this file. I'm not sure why it doesn't have anything, to be honest. That's weird, because it should have information here. In the source, and it generated them in the source. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe we should have left them also in the source, but it's not a big problem for us at the moment. If we want to check the API in the cloud, we can say amplify console API. This will open the console specifically for our API, and then we can have a look at the backend and what types it generated, if everything is okay there. So are you opening it? Yeah, GraphQL, and here it is. 1 second. So yeah, this is our schema. Wait a bit, it's taking a bit of time. Yeah, this is our schema. It has all the types, all the inputs for creating a tweet, for creating a user. It generated all of this only from our schema that we provided. Yeah, it's like a long schema, like a user type with all the information, and also generated some queries. For example, list tweets. That's the query that we will run to receive a list of tweets. And here in the items we can check what information we want to display about each tweet. So for example, we want to display all information about the tweet itself, and also the name and the username of the person that posted it. So we run it and we see that we have an error because here, come on, why? List tweets, items. Yep, now it should work. So email, ID, image, name. Don't need email. Run, and we see that there is an empty array of items because there are no tweets in the database yet. Okay, shortly we will create users in our database, we will create tweets, and for now our GraphQL API was added successfully, was set up in our project, so we can mark it as done. The next step would be to sync the authenticated user to database. In our process, we added authentication in the beginning, and that authentication creates users in so-called Cognito user pools, and that has no relationship with our database. However, we need information about users in our database as well to be able to know, for example, who posted a tweet, to be able to have additional information like image and other information about the user. So for that reason, we will do a little trick, and whenever we open the app, the application will receive a current authenticated user from Cognito, and will check if that user exists in our database. If that user doesn't exist in database, that means that it's the first time he's signing up, and at that point we will create this user in database. And after that, when we log in, we check that if a user exists in our database, it exists in our database, and we don't do anything. And this way, when we post a tweet, we can take the user from our database and have a relationship between users and tweets in our backend API. So that's shortly the plan. Let's have a look how we can do that. So let's close everything here. And let's open our app.tsx, because this is the entry point of our application. So we need to do something when the component mounts. And to do that, we know that we can use the useEffect hook and pass here a function. And if we pass an empty array to the second parameter, we make sure that this function will be called only the first time when component mounts. So that's what we want to achieve. And let's import useEffect from React. So this here in our useEffect, we will declare async function, because we will need a synchronous call, but we cannot do them directly in the effect. So to accomplish asynchronous tasks in effects, we declare the function as follows, and then we just call it here. Yeah, the IDEA will complain that the promise return from update user is ignored, but we don't have to do anything with it. We just when use effect is called, we call this function, and then it handles everything else. So the first step is like get current authenticated user. Yeah, get current authenticated user. So get check if user already exists in database, and then if it doesn't, create the user in the database. So these are the three steps that we need to follow in here. The first one is get current authenticated user, and we can accomplish that using the auth from AWS Amplify, I guess, from here. Yeah, auth. And we can say, for example, user info will be await auth get. It's not get current user, but current authenticated user, like that. And we also want to make sure to send the option bypass cache through in order for this query to not use the cached values, but to always get it from the backend. So first of all, let's console log this user info and see what information we have there. So let's save a file. Let's open our here, and here is our Cognito user. It has information about the session, the attributes. Here we see email, phone number, and this sub, which is a unique identifier of a user in Cognito. And this is very important because we will use this ID as an ID of a user in database. So that's how we will link the Cognito user with a user in our database. Hello, Daniel. Thank you very much. But try, bro. I know you can. So yeah. And also here is the username of that user. So what we want to do. First of all, we should check if user info is not null, because if user is not authenticated, it might be null. So if user info then we check if user already exists in database. And how do we do that? We need to do a query get user using our GraphQL API. So from AWS Amplify, we will import API and also GraphQL operation. Let's split it up a bit. Like this. And we need to import the query itself. So we will do it here, import get user from from source GraphQL queries. And here check if user already exists in database. So we will query the user data, which is equal to await API GraphQL, and here we will send a GraphQL operation with our get user query, and we will pass some variables here, which is input, just ID. So let me show you how you can find these variables, like what it needs. So if we go to our source queries, here we see all the queries. The first one is get user, and the get user query wants an ID variable to know which user you want to query. So we need to pass this ID inside our query. Hello, Savin, I'm following you from Madagascar. I've seen your Instagram clone and that's so interesting. Hi Kennedy, thank you a lot. Thanks for watching and joining. I really appreciate it. So yeah, as I was saying, we need to give ID, and if you remember, I was saying that this subfield is a uniquely identifier and we will use it as ID. Then we know that we can access it by accessing attributes.sub. So let's go and do that, which is user info dot attributes, not dot ID but dot sub, something like that. Okay, we have user data. Let's console log this user data and see what we have. In the beginning it will be null because there is no user yet created with this data. Let's have a look here. So yeah, the response is data get user null. Okay, we know that if user data dot get user, if this is null, no, get user, come on. So if this is null, then we want to save user to database. Else we just can console log something like user already exists. Okay, now we need to implement this save user to database as a function here, which will be an async function. We need to send the user object, like what we want to save there. We need to save the user. So the user object, let's create it here. We'll have, first of all, yeah, we can have a look at our Amplify Backend API schema. So this is all the information about the user that we need to provide. For example, ID. When we create a user, we can come on, that didn't focus. We don't have to pass the ID because the ID will be auto-generated. So we need to pass username, name, email, and image. So let's do username. Will be user info dot attributes dot username. The name, we don't have a name in our authentication process, so we don't have anything in our user info. That's why we will keep it as username. Email will be user info.attributes dot email. So anything else? Oh no, guys, forget everything I said about user ID. Yes, that's true. If we don't send anything, it will be auto-generated, but sorry. But in that case, we lose the relationship between a Cognito user and a database user, like AppSync user. So we will not be able to have this relationship between them. For that reason, for the ID, for the newly created user, we will send user info, this subfield, user info.attributes.sub. This is the unique identifier of a user in the Cognito pool. Tackle Media, good job, keep it up. Thank you, brother. I will try. So here is, I misspelled something. Does not exist GraphQL result. What? Not user data, but user info, bro. Okay. And the last thing will be the image. And let's, instead of, it will be easier to just assign random images to everyone, but for now let's just have one image, and after that we can come back and play around with it. And maybe in the next video we will allow users to upload their own images, but for now let's go to, I think in our data tweets we have an image here. Come on. Get random image, but it's not gonna be random at the moment. So yeah, let's get random image, return. I hope, no, it's not good yet. I think right now might be okay. And this one is gonna be a const. All right, image get random image. Okay, so we send this to our save user to database, the object that we created, and we should not forget to await. All right, in our save user to database, we need to run a mutation to write this data to database. So a mutation, a query is something that we want to get data from a GraphQL backend, and a mutation is something that we want to write. So in a REST world, a GET request will be a query, a POST request will be a mutation in GraphQL. So now we want to post data. We can go to source mutations, and here we can see that there is a mutation create user. To do that, first of all, let's import it from mutations, and here will be create, not graph but user, right? Yep. So what we want to do, yeah, let's await API as well, GraphQL, because we want to access the GraphQL part of API. And here will be a GraphQL operation, and we send the create user mutation that we just imported. As a second argument, we need to send the variables. So if we look at the mutations, it has two variables, input and condition. We need only input for now, so that's why we will pass the input, and we will assign it the user's values. User. Okay, for yeah, here is the problem that our Amplify didn't generate the types. So right now it will be a type any, but if the Amplify generated as types, so for example, if you didn't mess up the paths where the Amplify to generate the code, then you would have all the types here in API. Then you import the user input type and you assign it here, like user input, create user input like this. However, we don't have it now. Yep. Okay, not a big problem. So that will create the user in the database. It already complains about something, unhandled promise rejection. Message variable input has coerced null value for non-null type string. For which one? What did we mess up? So we have ID, we have username, we have name, email, and image. Let's console log, and better, let's console log here the user to see what data we have. Maybe we didn't build the object correctly. And if we go to our hello, what did I do? Where is my here? So object email, it's correct, ID is correct. Oh, name and username is undefined. That's the problem. So we are accessing user info. Oh yeah, that's the problem. The username is not in our attributes, but is directly in the user info, so that's why it was undefined there. And now if we have a look here, this warning is from something else. Just ignore it at this point because it's just from analytics. Yeah, and it's not a problem for now. It's just annoying because it. So our user most probably was created, and if we run again the application, we should see a console log that the user already exists in database if everything is working. So let's reload, running application. Okay, we see it, user already exists, and we don't create duplicates. That means that the first time that we access the application after we sign up, we created successfully a user in our database. And to prove that, let's go to AWS console and say list users, and for the items we will query the ID, image, and username. So if we query, we see that the username was created with the email that I used while signing up, with a name with a login username I used while signing up, and so on. So yeah, this step is done. We managed to sync our Cognito users with our AppSync. So we have our users in database, and then we will be able to use them to add tweets. Yeah, sorry for, I don't have any cups here. I have only the one from the coffee. A fly is enjoying my coffee. Okay, so what we have here, sync authenticated user to database, done. Display authenticated user in header. Display authenticated user in header. What does that mean? That means that here, instead of this image, we want to display the avatar of the currently authenticated user. Let's do it. Let's close everything. Go to our, no, it's not in our components, it's in our navigation. Should it be in, I already forgot, it's here, bottom tab navigator. All right, yeah, it's this one. So in the bottom tab navigator, we have a function for the home navigator, which is like the first tab here. So all the screens in the home navigator, and here we define the header title, header right, and header right, left, which has the profile picture. So here we would need to get the user from the database and to get his avatar. So how can we do that? Let's do here. When we want to do that, we want to do that when the component mounts. So for that, we will use a use effect. Use effect. With the second parameter as empty array, and here we will say like get the current user. We get the current user and we will need to store it somewhere. So where we will store it? We will store it in a use state, in a state. So here will be user and set user, which will be a use state and can be null in the beginning. Let's import it, use state and use effect. And here we will define this function the same way as we did previously, because it's an asynchronous function and we need to wrap it around a different function, not use it directly in use effect. So fetch user will be async. So fetch user, what we will need? We will need to import the API and GraphQL operation from Amplify. GraphQL operation from AWS Amplify. Then we will need the get user query, and that is okay. Why React is imported here? That pushes my buttons. I can't look at it there. And not speaking already about the single quotes. Okay, will not try to waste a lot of time on that one. In my projects, I do spend a lot of time for that. So here, import get user from source, from a directory up source GraphQL queries. All right. Okay, and here in our fetch user, let's of course call it, not to forget. Let's add a try catch block because that's a best practice whenever we do network requests, because we can never be sure that the user is connected to the internet, or the server is responding, or stuff like that. So here we will console log the error. However, in the try we can say const user data is equal to await API GraphQL, and we will send the GraphQL operation with our query get user. However, we need to know the ID of the user. So to get the ID of a user, the same way as we did here, we will query the authenticator. Let's do it here. And we will pass this ID to our variables here, ID, which will be user info dot attribute dot not ID but sub. I'm not sure why they called it sub. If anyone knows, enlighten me. What does it stand for? So okay, we get the user data. Here we will check if user data, then we can say set user data dot get user, and that should be it, if I'm not mistaken. Here I would also like to check if there is no user info. That means that the user is not authenticated when we just return. Then we do that. Does it make sense, guys? Let me know. So we set the user, and in our profile picture for the image, instead of a hard-coded image, we will send. Okay, let's first of all check if user is not null. Then we will send user dot image. Otherwise, we will display this default picture, or we can just say empty string. Probably not a big problem. Yeah, but I'm checking Typescript. Why? Actually, we can do it slightly different, like this. Yeah, let's handle the missing profile picture in here, and here for the URI it's image or empty string. Daniel is saying that he learned coding by simply watching these streams. I'm really glad that you learned it. Would you like to join my team and work for the startup? So guys, I didn't see, but we already see our avatar here. So it displayed correctly from database the currently user avatar. That's great. Let's mark it as done, and then we can continue. Now I've earned enough money to buy myself an iPhone. Oh, great, with coding? That's amazing. Vadim, thanks for impacting my life so much. I'm really glad that I managed to do that, bro. So, what's next? Oh, the next part is the interesting part, posting a tweet. So, shall we get into it, guys? Or take a sip of water from my big ass jar, not just big ass. All right, so where is our posting a tweet? Is pressing here, so here we can see the posting a tweet page. First of all, let's close everything, start from scratch. Components, no, it's not in components, it's in screen, new tweet screen, and it's here. We see all the views. How beautiful is his branding, bro? I paid money for that. Some style. Where did you saw my branding, bro? Now I want to get some merch and create some branded t-shirts, of course only for myself, because I'm egoist. So yeah, we have this function on post tweet, which will be called every time we press on this button tweet. Then we can take the tweet from our state and the image URI and send it to the database. All right, what we need to do, we need to import, of course, the API and GraphQL operation as usually. Import API and GraphQL operation from Amplify, and we need also the query itself, not the query, the mutation, sorry, which is called create tweet, and this will be from source GraphQL and mutations. Oh, you open a PowerPoint or something like that just now? This one? Yeah. Thank you for appreciating that. I also love it very much how it turned out. I did it on Fiverr, so I didn't expect a lot of things, but the way it turned out is over my expectations. So guys, let's start here. So as well, every time we want to make a request to the network, we put it into a try catch block. And here we console log, yeah, error. So the first thing is making this function asynchronous, because we will need to call an asynchronous function to the API. And here let's do await API GraphQL, and here we pass a GraphQL operation, and as the second parameter we need to pass the variables. So yep, no I was looking that I was doing something wrong. So the GraphQL operation, we need to open the brackets and send here the create tweet, and here as the second argument we pass the variables. And it already, yeah, let's go and see, let's open the mutation file, and here find the create tweet mutation, and what it needs an input, and the input will be the create tweet input. Where we can find that? We can find that in our source GraphQL schema. Will it be here? I'm not sure. Create tweet. I don't think we will find it easily here. Yeah, let's so the input will be the fields that a tweet has. So let's go to our API schema, and a tweet has ID, which we will leave as null because we don't need to set up anything. It's gonna be automatically generated. It has content, image, and user ID, and these three information we need to send to the input. So new tweet screen. Here the input will be a new tweet, and let's define the new tweet object, which will be, so content is our tweet from here, from the state. Image is our image URL from the state, and user ID will be the ID that we will take most probably again calling the authentication service. Let me have a look if I am on track. Yeah, that's true. So we need the user ID. So how can we take it? We will take it from current user will be auth. First of all, let's import authentication from Amazon Amplify. Current authenticated user, and let's not forget to bypass cache. True. So for the user ID, we remember that it lives in attributes dot sub. So guys, you current user, did I mistype it? Oh, we need to await here, of course. Now, yeah, now the error is gone. So guys, you see that I'm always querying this query with authenticated. Yeah, that's one way, but there are better ways to do that using context. So if you have experience with context, you write these variable once in the context, and after that you just with a simple hook you can get the context and get this the current user. Okay, so we have our new tweet, we send it here, we wait, we do everything. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think that's everything we need. So let's go ahead and try to run it. Hello, image, okay, tweet, and let's see if we get any errors here. Yeah, no, that was an old error, I guess. The easiest way would be to go to Amazon AppSync and call the list tweets query, run it, and we see it's here. Hello. So that's nice. So our tweet from our front end was posted on the backend or saved to our database. Everything is Gucci gang, as one of my old friends says. All right, what's next? Whenever we post a tweet, I would like to redirect the user back to the feed. So for that, we will need to use the navigation, and we take the navigation from using a hook. Use navigation. We imported. I'm not sure if it will. No, it doesn't know where to import it, but I know where to import it from. So the use navigation from React navigation native from here. User, no, not user navigation, use navigation. Yeah, now it's better. So whenever we post the tweet, we say navigation dot go back. Let's try. Hello world, tweet, and it goes back. When we go back to the screen, nothing is there. And one more thing, whenever we press on this X, we should also be able to go back. So we find this icon, it should be somewhere here, this one, the Van Design close icon, and to attach a click listener to it, we can wrap it around a touchable component. In this case, we will probably take a touchable opacity, and we will say on press a function navigation go back, navigation go back, and let's have a look. We press, we go back, we press, we go back. Yeah, that's good. That's it with posting and creating a tweet in our database. Let me know down below if you managed to do it, or if you have any problems. I might be able to help you. So that's it, post a tweet done. And the last thing for today is to connect everything that we have built so far. So we will have to connect the feed with the tweets. So Vadim, focus. So we will have to connect the feed to query the tweets from the backend and display them there, because right now these are still dummy data. Before that, let's drink some water. Okay. So tired, but excited at the same time. So let's go. Let's first of all close everything. Okay. Then go into our components, and here we see our feed component. Let's open it. And Andrew, top water glass. Yeah, bro, I don't have any glass here, so want some? Who can guess where do you get these types of jars in Moldova? +5 to karma. Probably only people from Moldova will know. So for the feed, let's replace simple braces with curly braces and add the return statement instead. Okay, put it there. Okay, now it's much better. So here we, whenever this component mounts, we need to query the tweets from the database. Keep hydrated. Yeah, bro, I will. Thank you. You too. Don't forget to drink water. That's very important. So yeah, as I said, when the component mounts, whenever I said that, say that, we know that we need to use an effect with empty array as a second parameter. Here we declare a function fetch tweets, which will be a async function, and we call it here fetch tweets. Get the tweets from backend and set them to state. That's what we need to do here. And we also will need the state to keep these tweets. For that, let's declare const here tweets and set tweets, which is a use state, and as a default argument we will say that it's an empty array. an empty array. So let's import the use state and also delete the tweets import from the dummy data. We will not need dummy data now. So in order to query the backend, we will need to import two important parts. Free API, GraphQL operation from AWS Amplify, and also we will need to import the query itself. So the query will be list tweets, and it's gonna come from like this, src GraphQL queries. So here we declare the try catch block to make sure that we don't encounter any errors while fetching the data from the backend. And here we say const tweet data equal to await API.GraphQL, and here we pass a GraphQL operation with the list tweet query. Then we can console log this data to see what we have, what we receive from the server. Let's save. It will refresh. Nothing is here. That's what is expected yet, because we didn't set it into our state. Let's go here and see what it console logs. So it console logs us an object with data, list tweets, and items, and this is how we access the array of all the tweets in our database. Data, list tweets, items. So yeah, that means that we can say set tweets to tweet data dot list tweets dot items. If we save, yep, here we see our tweets. Awesome. So if we go and post a new tweet, if we post a new tweet, we will not see it here, because this fetch tweets is called only when we mount the component. However, there are some things we can improve to be able to update this feed, because if you know, like in every application, like the feed doesn't update automatically, it only updates only when you like pull down the feed. So we can do the same thing here. Let's first of all take this function out of a use effect, because we will need to call the same function whenever we pull down. And we will need one more thing. We will need the a flag, like a boolean variable, a boolean state, that will say if currently we're loading tweets, like the query for the to the backend is in process, or we are not doing anything. So for that we will declare a set loading use state, and we'll say false initially, because in the beginning we are not loading. So when are we loading? Whenever we call this fetch function, we set here that we start loading. So whenever we call, we start loading. Here in the wait, here is all the heavy stuff. So until it's here, it's gonna be true, and when it finishes, we should set it back to false. So how to achieve that? We declare a finally block to our try catch block, and this final block will be called always after no matter if our try managed to to go till the end, or we had an error and it was here. So it will always be called at the end of the execution. For that reason, we can set here set loading to false, because no matter what happens, like an error or a success, we want to set that we're not loading anymore. With that things in mind, we can go to our flat list and declare two more properties, like refreshing, which will be our loading, and this is the thing that will display like loading animation on our flat list. I can show you by setting it to true. If I save, yeah, probably it doesn't show. Yeah, I think the animation is handled by something else. So here on refresh, we call fetch tweets. So whenever we want to refresh, we call the fetch tweets. We save, and whenever we pull down right now, we see the loading animation and our tweets are updating. So we can test that by saying are you updating, bro? If we tweet, we pull down and we see the tweet are you updating here. So let's also try a tweet with an image. Let's go to our data. So here is that image. Come on. I hope that I'll be able to paste it here. Image URL, paste. Yeah. Lou, check out this image. Tweet. Let's see. Okay, that's not what I was intending to display. That's very narcissistic, like everywhere my face. Okay, what I wanted to show. Some content, bro, some content. Yeah, this one. Okay. I am not narcissistic. How do you spell that word? So we update, and yeah, we see some beautiful city there. All right. So our tweets are coming from the backend. We are able to write tweets. They are written to backend and they are attached to the currently authenticated user. You'll be able to run this application and sign up with multiple accounts, and you will see that the tweets are assigned to the current user. Also, we can see the feed, and the feed will display all the tweets from all the users. So if you right now will download Expo application on mobile, and if you'll scan this QR code, you'll be able to log into my Twitter application, and you'll be able to post a tweet, and I will see it, and everyone will see it in the application. Yeah, however, we will not do that right now. Let's have a look. So connected to the feed to the backend, and that was the last thing that we planned to do for today. So guys, let me know down below what you think about this project, if you enjoyed it, if you learned something new. If you're stuck on anything, please let me know, and I will try to help everyone that is following the project themselves. And if you're stuck, like I will try to help you. And yeah, let me know also if you are interested in continue this build, or shall we start something new from scratch the next week, because the next week we are also going live, probably on Thursday, because I recently started the university, and yeah, I have some time constraints, but I will manage. I'll try to schedule the stream on the same time and the same date, so it will be consistent, so you can put it into your calendar. I don't know. So yeah, let me know what you want me to do during the next stream. Yeah, my voice is already cracking. So thank you a lot for getting this long with me. Thanks for joining. Don't forget to like this video because it will definitely help me. Subscribe to the channel, all the good stuff. And also the most important thing, guys, write clean code, drink water. I am so tired I forgot my outro. Can you imagine that? Okay.